I gotta watch this. Yeah, 3 more minutes.
Hold on.
I don't have the PowerPoint memorized, so I feel like I gotta keep looking back to see,
Just go up your,
isn't it, it's all in order?
it should be, and I'll be your Vanna White.
Okay, shouldn't have the glasses.
You wanna?
Oh, you know what?
Let me use
Do I need to?
helps.
Really does.
Does it help?
Makes more.
This one can be, is there any place to hold it? You don't need any place to hold it.
I have pockets.
Oh, do you? There you go.
How are you?
Just how often do you get to play with the balloon?
Not
How many
very
people are on
Everybody
there?
knows, you know?
Hold on, Mr. Jones.
There we go. One. We're crushing it right now. All right,
Should we start?
do you want me to start it off? Let
Sure.
me introduce you.
I introduced myself there.
So let me just say something about Tracy. So Tracy received the #1 and #2 awards for last year in production. And the one thing that I think is very cool about Tracy is that she's been a part of multiple market centers, and every market center that she's been in the top 5, if not #1 or #2. And that's regardless of what market we were in, whether it was a short sale market, whether it's a up market, whether it's a down market, she has always found her way to the top of the realtor list. So I think this is going to be a great class that we'll be able to replay for agents once they join the office.
Do I have to do that weird?
You do. Come over here. Raise your hand. There you go. Now walk over there.
Okay.
Good work. All right, we'll stand over there.
And now don't move.
There we go. Just stand
Okay.
stand that area right there. Be
Okay,
good.
got it. Okay. All right. I'm just curious, who's been in real estate less than 5 years in this room? Awesome.
You're like on the cusp though, aren't you?
Yeah, this is like year 4 for me.
Okay. You're my people. I'm really glad you guys are here. Although I have to say, even experienced agents, I think even myself need a brusher up on the market's always changing. So anyway, I came up with this idea, got my business cards, now what? Because we hire people on our team and a lot of times they're new. And once they get their license, they think, okay, cool, I got it all dialed in, I know exactly what I need to do. And everything that you learned when you got your, your passed your exam, and you got your license, you pretty much, as you're nodding your head, you throw all that away. All that economic obsolescence terminology that you had to learn, you don't really use it in the day-to-day. So this class is about, everyone's thinking like, oh my God, I can't do anything until I get my business cards. Well, now you got your business cards, and now what do you need to do to get actual business? There are some boring fundamental things that you must do before you become successful in real estate. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So you basically have everything ready and you're ready to go. Next. So that's
your
my
out-
first
that's
slide.
your outline.
Okay. So scenario 1, showing your property. You get your license, as I mentioned, and your best friend wants you to show them a property, but you actually know what to do next. Most agents call me and go, help, I don't know what to do. I need to show property. And my first question is, are you with the MLS? Have you ever taken the 101 class with the MLS? Do you know how to find properties in the MLS? Do you know about contracts? Typically, the answer is no, and they're completely lost. So instead of waiting for that to happen, you need to know how to do all of this stuff. And you probably know how to do most of this stuff, Devin, because you're already writing on. Okay, next slide. Scenario 2, you get your license and your Aunt Betty trusts you to sell her home. She wants you to come over and list the home today. What are your next steps? again, most people, the first thing experienced listing agents do is we pull title. And we look at who's on title, who the seller is, if they owe anything, if there's any liens against the properties. And then it's also about going on the MLS and looking at the comps in the area to know what you're gonna price it at. So we're gonna break that down too. Again, you need to have people on your team and resources to know how to get through all of these steps.
So can I just try
Yeah,
to say something
please.
here? So when we talk about the MLS stuff, our information is gonna vary depending on what MLS you're a part of. So are you part of SRAR, or are you part of DMLS? DMLS. Everybody part of DMLS?
Yeah.
Okay, so the information we're gonna talk about is gonna vary because we're part of SRAR. Just because our business is larger and goes all over the place. And I think SRAR is like one of the largest MLSs in the state, so.
But I would think the MLS has like a training class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's gonna be similar, but a little different. So just keep that in mind. But I want to encourage everybody to ask questions. I mean, she led a team that's done like 40 million in sales. So like, if you have a question, ask her. She will probably really answer.
Yeah, stop me at any time. Okay, so preparing before the opportunity arises. This is my sweet Adriana, I'm using her as an example. She is my mentee, right? I'm the mentor, she's my mentee. And one of the things that we've been working on is, it's like ready, set, go. You have to get things prepared while you're out there prospecting, while you're out there lead generating. So researching your target audience, understand who you are targeting and what they need from you. So for example, if most of your database is 20-somethings and they're millennials and what they're looking for, that's important to know. Same thing with if your database is the elderly, it's like knowing what your database is and who you're marketing to. That's really important.
It's kind of like when you walk into a room of a networking event and it's like the Asian Pacific American multiple listing service. Like you have a really good idea of who's going to be in that room just by the title of it. So like, you know, the room. So like when people like know your room or like know your audience, like that's kind of like, what is your database comprised of? Or, you know, depending on how old or young you are, like it will, you know, like our database is going to be probably skewed to an older demographic to where somebody who just got out of college is going to be to a younger demographic. So
We don't get the young pick.
not, you know, some of them.
So creating a professional profile, develop a professional profile on social media and Google that reflects your brands and values. You're welcome to check out mine. It's @FreckleRealtor on Instagram and my Facebook. And then developing your elevator pitch, create a concise and compelling pitch to introduce yourself to potential customers. One of the things that I, on repeat, always say when I'm on a listing appointment, that I feel like my superpower is making the transaction as stress-free as possible. My job is to take on all the stress and not have you go through any of the stress. So please feel free to ask me as many questions as you want. Any time of the day, I want to make this as stress-free as possible. Because most of the time people get stressed out when they don't know the answers and they start creating their own answers in their head. So I am here to make this as stress-free as possible. If you go to our Google reviews, Talk to Bernardo Real Estate Google reviews. If you read through all of them, that is a common thing mentioned in all of the reviews, that it was stress-free and I made it stress-free. So that's my elevator pitch. Same thing when I say to buyers, just spin a little bit different.
And it's not, and they're not all stress-free. But when you sit down and you say things to people, like they parrot you, they'll remember things. So like when they go to do a review, oh yeah, stress-free and this and that, and it'll end up, even if it's not stress-free, it'll end up in the review because it's been said so many times throughout the transaction.
I do say as stress-free as possible.
As possible, yeah. Well, the thing is you're not controlling, there's a lot of components that you can't control. And I think where a lot of agents will make mistakes is they will act as if they control the entire process. And that is something that I tell agents, do not do that. You tell them what you're in control over. You make sure that everybody understands what everybody's job is. So if like the other agent or the other escrow company or the other lender or somebody else ends up dropping the ball, that you're seen as the person that's fixing the situation, not the person responsible for the situation. I cannot tell you how many times agents are like, I'm in control of everything, I'm the mastermind, I'm this and that, and when everything goes down, who's to blame? right? And you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's like, you really have to make sure that you are the person who communicates and manages the relationships. And the more you communicate with your people, the better the transaction will be, even if it is stressed.
And I feel a lot of that comes from confidence. And a lot of that confidence comes from educating yourself. If there's something that I don't know about, it's okay to say, I don't know, let me get back to you, let me research that and get back to you. But through the years, I've just gained more confidence just based on experience. But even if you don't have that experience, again, we're gonna circle back to this, but having people in your corner on your team is gonna help you. So you can go to them and ask questions. So you sound like you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was taught to never, ever pretend to know something that you don't know.
Exactly.
Don't even, just never even try it. Just
Yeah,
say, I don't know, but I'll find out for you.
yeah, you will get screwed.
Yeah.
No matter what, okay, next one. Okay, so building relationships with vendors. This is so important. If you guys don't have this dialed in, you will be lost. This is so important. Having a lender that you know, like, and trust. My criteria for a lender is they have to be reachable on the weekends and they have to return my text messages, no matter what time of day. I understand it's unrealistic to think they're gonna text me back at 10 o'clock at night, but I want you guys to remember something. They work for you. The lender works for you. You are giving them business. So the importance of getting to know them, taking time to get to know them, see if they're gonna earn your business, that is so crucial. The next person is the title rep. Title rep is so key in your business. That is probably the first person that I go to whenever I get a listing. The title rep is going to be able to give you so much information about property lines, liens, defaults, permits, information about the neighborhood. If you're going to start lead generating and doing farming, if you're a farmer like myself, like Adriana, talking to your title rep is super important. Again, they work for you. They're going to get business once you get that listing and you give them the title order. If you're on the buyer side, especially in this market, it's very difficult to give the title order to your title person. It's typically the listing agent that chooses that. Okay. Any questions about either of those things, lender or title? Yes.
So those two components are extremely important. So we actually have vested interests in those two components. We have a mortgage person with Andy in the office, and we have Laura Lynn and Haley with Clearmark Title. We actually own a piece, our company, Forward Living, owns a piece of Clearmark Title. So I know there's other title reps in here and people work with other title reps, but as far as having your best interest at heart, our people are here for that reason, to make sure that they are the glue and that they will go above and beyond for you and your business. So I do know that other people like to use other people, but if you really want to make, because this is the thing, if something happens or there's a problem or there's the reason we have those people here is like they can't hide. Like they're accountable to us, they're accountable to me. If you say, hey, this happened on title, I'm texting them or I'm calling the lender, like what's going on, and their feet will be held to the fire. As to anybody else, any other lender, any other title rep, I have no say. So we're all here to support you and help you, and those two relationships are super, super important.
One other thing is your title rep and your lender will have free marketing pieces for you. Free. Send out to your database. So again, another good reason to have a good relationship with them. Also, if you're doing an open house, typically the lender will put together a flyer for you and stuff. Transaction coordinator. When you guys get your first deal, I want you to understand a transaction coordinator is not there to do the work for you. They're there to help you facilitate the transaction. So it's important that you still understand all the documentation, but a TC or transaction coordinator is so important. I've had the same TC for 17 years. And I know that there's one here in-house as well that's very good. But having a transaction coordinator is important because you don't want to spend your day chasing after paperwork. They will go after the other agent, say, hey, we're missing this for our file. Or they'll come to you and say, hey, we need this doc to sign. Or we're missing a signature. So putting a TC is really important. And again, interview them and make sure that they're the right fit.
So I am really big on having an in-house TC. That's why I'm very particular about who it is. And I will tell you this right now, if you ever close a deal and you're like, where's my check? I'll be like, ask your TC. Like, your TC is the person who should have the file complete and should be holding you accountable and everybody accountable to the paperwork in there to make sure that that file is complete. If you ever come to me and ask me or ask Laura or ask Cassidy, like where your check is, like your TC would be our first phone call. I have had TCs that have not been a part of my company that other people have used that are terrible. And this is the only time in almost 2 decades of working in real estate that it's ever happened. But I held an agent's check that was $15,000 for over 3 years because their file was not complete. And if we close a complete file and we hand out checks and there's a lawsuit, I held the check because if there's a lawsuit, the deductible is 20,000. So it didn't even cover the deductible. I'm like, no. Until you decide to clean your file. I mean, we're missing disclosures. We're missing like a grip of stuff. So like, I'll hold the check. Unless you're like a massive product, like I would never hold one of Tracy's checks because I know if there's something on in her file, she will 100% get it for me. Same with Vanessa, same with these top producers that consistently close deals. I know I'll get my paperwork. And I also know that there'll be another check that I can hold later if I need to. But having a TC is super important and holding them accountable is really important.
The last thing is if you're brand new, getting a mentor. I think that's really worth it to have somebody to bounce questions off of and talk to and help get you dialed in and going in the right direction. I'm going to use Adriana as an example. When I first met Adriana, she wanted to spend money on all sorts of things. And I'm like, hold on, girl, down back. You don't need those things. You don't need to spend money on these things. This is where you need to start. So talk to Frank about mentors in the office. He has that all happen.
Yeah. And I don't want you to go out and do a whole bunch of work. I want you to go find a client and then bring me back a client and go, I need help. And then I'll be like, I'll plug you into somebody. Because if you try to get everything dialed in before you get the business, that's kind of like, it makes it more difficult.
How do we know if someone's asking a question?
Shouldn't put that.
That's sweet. Okay. All right, next slide. Okay, so systems before sales. The first thing is DocuSign. Is everyone signed up with DocuSign in this room? If you're not, don't be embarrassed.
I just want to make sure everybody knows it doesn't say leads. Leads are not on this page. So everything else, leads are not on here.
Yes, this is true. So having DocuSign is really important. I can't tell you how often I use DocuSign. It's through the years, it's become more of a normal scenario. I like meeting people face to face, but everybody has busy schedules. So understanding and knowing how to work in DocuSign is really important. There's trainings within DocuSign as well. Signing up for the MLS, making sure you go in an MLS 101 class. You know, honestly, you could test yourself by going, okay, I want to find a $500,000 house or a $5 million house in Encino, and testing yourself and going in the MLS and pulling it. Or you know what, I want to know how much my mom's home is worth. I'm going to try to see if I can figure this out. Or putting together a CMA, a comparative market analysis. Knowing how to do all that stuff now is so important because I'll tell you, when you get a lead, you're going to feel like it's speed to lead. Have you guys heard of that phrase before? Speed to lead is talking about when you get a lead, you better reply fast, you better be on top of it, you better know the answers. And if you don't get the answers, get back to them as quickly as possible. So letting things lie to sort of train yourself when you're in the heat of the moment, you're going to lose the person. I just lost a buyer yesterday. You know how I lost it? A referral buyer. An agent called me from San Diego, left me a voicemail. I was in a meeting. I didn't get out of the meeting until an hour and a half later. Checked my voicemail, called him back immediately, and he said, well, I'm sorry, I gave it to another agent. So that's what happens. So we're checking your messages and staying on top of things is so important.
Well, the MLS is your inventory. It's your product. And if I gave you a business and said, I have a warehouse full of all of your products right here, if you went out and tried to sell those products before you even went and looked through the inventory to see what was in there, what were their size, what they look like, were they broken, were they fake, like before you even looked in there, if you went out and tried to sell it, like you wouldn't be very successful, would you? So it's like you have to see what's in the inventory. Like when I was selling real estate at a higher level than I am today, I was constantly looking at the MLS, even when I didn't have any clients, just to see what was out there, what was happening. How many homes for sale in Northridge? How many homes for sale in Westwood? That's when Joe came in, he was just like, we don't have any, we're in the Westwood office, we have no listings in Westwood, what's that about? Like, he only knew that because he went and searched Westwood real estate, how many homes do we have? Now, there aren't a lot of homes for sale. How do you know that? Well, you know that by going to the MLS and seeing like, wow, there's only 30 homes for sale in Northridge? That's random. And then you can search history and find out how much was, like, you have to know your inventory, you have to know what's going on out there. Plus, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I'm looking for a fixer in Northridge, you'd be like, yeah, I just saw that. Like, I just saw something like that. Let me get back to you and look at that. So it's really important to be a part of the MLS even before you have clients.
Adriana was looking for, hold on a second. Adriana was looking for an open house to do, and I said, go in the MLS and look for vacant homes. And then she wanted to do the open house and she'd never used her super key before. And I said, you better go the day before to make sure you know how to do it, how to open it up. And she did. So just little things like that. You had a question?
Yeah, how do we do training on MLS?
There's a class, if you want to tell her how you did it.
Yeah, they have an orientation. And they'll walk through the MLS.
Yeah, it's really informative.
Just on the quick YouTube channel as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Um,
an MLS class right after this one. So
Oh,
thank you.
There you go.
So, Laura, that's awesome. I don't know if anyone in this room are parents, but if you were gonna bring home a baby, you wouldn't bring home a baby without having blankets, formula, and toys, and a crib, and all these things to know how to handle a baby.
Does anybody have husbands?
I was gonna say. You still not know how to. handle
Exactly.
it.
There you go. This is what I'm talking about. You need to have all this dialed in. This is stuff they don't teach you to get your license. And there's not usually a class for this kind of stuff. I feel like there's a gap in education. So we're just trying to bring everybody up to speed. This one is the most important, zip forms. Out of everything, this is the most important. You need to practice in zip forms. Does everybody know how to access your zip forms? Is that a no or a yes? No. Okay. So your accessing your zip forms is gonna be different than accessing mine. I would call the board and ask, how do I access my zip form? Zip forms is where you go to pull up all of your contracts. So if you get a listing, you go to zip forms. There's a document library. You can set up your template where you can set up all of your listing documents, all of your buyer documents, and fill in all the Keller Williams information and all your information. So it's just basically like plug and play, right? But knowing which contracts you need and all of that, that's where having the relationship with the transaction coordinator is important. To say, hey, I'm getting ready to take my first listing. What documents do I need in zip forms? There's a chance they might send them to you, or they might tell you, here's the list, and then you go into zip forms and you pull those forms and you fill them out. Don't wait till the last minute to get familiar with zip forms. Okay, that's really, really important. I can't stress that enough, really important.
What's the one up upper corner, Laura? I can't see. It's the
Oh.
Zoom thing is up there. Yeah.
Oh, CRM. Hopefully you all know what a CRM is and you have one going like in Command or somewhere where you're putting all of your people, all of your database. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, so what is I don't know what CRM is.
Client relation manager.
Okay. So Command within Keller Williams, you can put everybody in there. That's how you follow up with all of your people. That's where you build your database. You have to have a certain amount of people in your database to make a certain amount of money. So every time you meet someone, your family members, your friends, your people you work out with, your kids, moms of kids and all that, throw them all in that database. So these are all crucial things. Right? Yes. Okay, lead generation. I think I'm almost done, right?
We're close.
Are you looking at your watch there?
Oh, no.
Okay. So lead generation, let's talk about lead generation. Once you guys get all of that stuff dialed in, and while you're getting it dialed in, you're gonna be lead generating. It's important to know legs on a table, that's what I call it when I'm mentoring. Legs on a table, what are you gonna focus on? Is open houses your thing? Is farming your thing? Is going after your database? That has to be your thing, that should be your number one thing. If it's going after expired listings for sell by owners, things of that nature. Knowing exactly what your legs on the table are. So for us, it's farming, online leads, and our database. We have a three-legged table, sometimes four, if I'm working with
Well, I
spiders.
think the team would be the fourth way forward.
That's a good point, yes.
But I mean, that's not the order though. It's
David.
database, then it's farming, and then it's online leads, and then it's team and miscellaneous business.
Yes. So it's really important to know what you're going to do. Now, if I'm gonna be farming, I would go talk to my title person, right? If I'm gonna take a listing, I need to have a title person on my side. If I get a buyer, I need to have a relationship with my lender. If I get any business, I need to have a good TC. So I'm just trying to show you, no matter what you go into, even open houses, having a title person and a lender person in your pocket is super important. When I first started out, I did my open houses, I would always bring a lender with me. So they could be there to answer any lender questions. So all of these things you need to kind of have in place. Daily schedule. I forgot to bring my example of the daily schedule. My daily schedule is I start really early in the morning, I'm at the computer, what, 6:30, 6:45?
Yeah,
And I am replying to all my miscellaneous emails and just stuff minutia that's in my head that I gotta get rid of. And then as soon as possible, starting at 8 AM, I start calling the online leads or texting the online leads and following up with anybody that I have in our pipeline. I also set up my buyers on an auto email through the MLS. I know the MLS has this because every MLS has it. I probably have 15 buyers right now on an auto send, and I copy myself. So I can see all the new listings that are going out to my clients based on what their search criteria is. I'll go through all those emails and see if there's anything that I'm afraid they're gonna miss that I think would be a perfect fit. And I forward it and say, hey, check out the one on whatever street, Amelia Street. I do that, and then I start going through my list of everyone in my database that I need to call for that day. So that's pretty much, my lead generation gets done before lunch. Yes,
So if you have 15 buyers, how do you keep track of which buyer is looking for this type of house?
that's a great question. I have it logged on a Word document. But when I'm in the MLS, their search criteria is auto-saved based on their search criteria. So I know everything that's getting sent out to them. If they're looking for a 3-2 under 2,000 square feet, up to $800,000 in this city, I know that it's.
So you keep a log also next year just to go through it.
Yeah, in case I see somebody post on Facebook, hey, I have this new listing of 3+2, but $900,000. I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds like it would be good, but oh wait, my client's only up to 800,000. I have a lot. It's very easy to lose track. The other thing that I have, and again, I am all about not spending a lot of money. I'm really, really frugal in our business. I would say for the amount of sales that we do, our overhead is pretty low.
it's super low.
It's super low. I have a Word, I'm in the Word documents, I don't know what it is. This is how my desk is. I sit here, and there's a wall here. This list is in front of my computer, over my computer so I can see it. And on this list is all of my hot leads. Hot leads, my warm leads, and my cold leads. So they're constantly in front of my face, and I'm constantly following up with them.
You can also track them through like opportunities in Command.
Yep.
So if you want something a little more high tech,
Absolutely.
I know that the system works great, but
I'm probably like, back in the day when people would use Rolodexes, that probably would have been me.
Most people didn't know what it was. Glenn maybe, but.
I know I shouldn't say this online, but I use a different system than Command, but I know Command works really, really well, but you're absolutely right.
She uses Command as well because you have to, because that's where your commission checks come
Yeah.
from, but so my opinion is like all databases are terrible. I hate them all. I do not like any of them. We're kind of forced to use Command, and in the grand scheme of things, it's actually one of the better databases because it's constantly trying to be improved based on the agent count that's with the company. So it's actually really good. So, but you have to use something. And if you can learn how to use something and learn how to like something, like all those things, we have 50 buyers, you can put all the things that you're doing with your buyers in your database system and have it pop up for the things that you need and things that you need to do next. So you always know something. So using that, it's almost like your personal assistant. And if you use it like that, you can always have something to refer back to, so you're never lost. The more organized you are, like one of the pillars of success, so success is defined as conscientiousness. And there's 4 pillars to that. One of the pillars is work ethic. One of the other pillars is organization. So the more organized you are, the more successful you're going to be. And she is super highly organized. I'm organized at a whole different like world, like landscape level to where like I'll have a whole mess there, but I'll know where everything is at. Right? And I know when I'll need to get them done. And she knows exactly how things happen, she's super like organized in like a list manner, which is what I would tell everybody. Like, I wish I could do that. It's not my personality.
Too.
Oh, yeah. And there it is. But I just want to show everybody here, when we talk about the legs on our table, the 4 things on our table, this changes every year. So right now, our database is giving 70% of our business. Our farm is at 20%. And then online and team right now, this second is at 5% each. That's because there's not too much coming out of these. This is probably going to fluctuate up or down, just depending. Like last year, it was really low. This was really high. This was really high. This was really low. So the team is just going to depend on how much business is the team doing. But
Those would drop off though if we didn't continue working with them.
yes, this number will always be high. And this is probably the lowest I've seen it in a while. Yes.
When does a farm lead or online lead become this part of the database?
So once you develop a relationship with somebody, when you develop a relationship with somebody, it just naturally goes into, so a sphere of influence is people that you talk to consistently. So
Yeah.
when you're farming, you knock on a door and you talk to them, you have a conversation with them. And you learn who they are, who's their mom, who's their son, who's their dog, like all that goes in your sphere of influence. Because now they're going to be a different part of your world, not like the house next door that you talked to one time, they've never bought or sold with you, and you've never really had a conversation with them, right? So, that's not
Do
right.
they know what knocking on the door is if you didn't do this?
It's a dramatic effect. See what I have, see what I'm dealing with there? See the-
Oh, I know what I was gonna say to you, make sure when you go to the class, you ask them, how do I set up my buyer on an auto email search? Those will be like your, kind of like your personal assistant, if you will. You don't have time to be in the MLS doing a daily search on your own, setting up the auto email search, that, you don't have to set and go. That's what I'm about. But you gotta follow up. Utilizing social media. Social media is a great way to reach potential leads, post regularly, and engage with followers. This is free. This is so important. We do social media classes. You do social media classes. I don't even know. There's so much to talk about here.
So I just to have a general overview is that I will tell you that I looked up every person in this room multiple times, many times when I first met you after this, and I will tell you none of you were doing it at the level you should be. Not even close. Not even like a little bit close. But I think we'd all agree if I gave you guys 5,000 postcards right now, you'd all send them out, right? And if I gave you 5,000 postcards every month, you'd send them out every month. So at the end of the year, you have, that's what, 70,000 postcards, right? 60,000 postcards, 60,000 postcards every month you guys would send out every year, right? But yeah, you won't do social media posts. So if you post online, hey, this is Glenn, I'm Keller Williams real estate agent and blah, 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 this whole thing, you post it on social media. What's the benefit of that? Well, the main benefit is that it's there forever. And if you put a hashtag, Glenn Real Estate, somebody searches Glenn Real Estate, guess what's going to come up? 5 years from now. If you send out a postcard today, the postcard will be gone 5 seconds after somebody looks at it, maybe glances at it, feels that it's a postcard, not even look at it, put it in the trash. Social media is something that will elevate your business to another level. We have a property in escrow right now to where we're getting ready to walk our dog, right? I'm sitting there, I'm dealing with the dogs are crazy, and Tracy's looking at her phone, I'm dealing with the dogs, and like she's like, I just gotta leave. I'm like, what? I'm like, you are bullshitting right now because you don't want to walk the dogs with me. Like, tell me this is not true. And she was just like, we're walking down. She's like, well, I don't know if I should call this lead back or if I should walk the dogs. I'm like, if it's a legit lead, she's like, they say they found us online. Like, So there's all these scam things out there, right? So you never know who's being honest, like, oh, hey, I'm an investor. You never know. And I said, listen, if it's a real lead, like go back and deal with the lead. I'll walk the dogs, right? I walk the dogs around the corner. I come back in the house. She goes, it was a real lead. They found us online. They have a house to sell and want to buy a house. I'm like, what? Over listed 775 in escrow for
8:15,
815, looking for how much of a house?
9:15.
From literally posting online. That is the value of social media. So now I get it. You're scared to post online. I can go around here and say, why don't you post? Why don't you post? It's going to be fear. It'll be just different levels of fear and different conversations of fear of why you don't do it. I mean, we're going to get judged by other people. People will say something shitty. Like, I get it. And trust me, I've dealt with that at majorly high levels. And it's like, you can't really, you have to kind of get past the care what other people think thing. Right? But if you create a hashtag for yourself, like, what would be a hashtag you could create for yourself?
I like to do stuff with my first and middle name, so Devin Rain.
Hashtag Devin Rain. Devin Rain, right? If you put that hashtag on literally everything that you do, and then put search this hashtag, that's literally a testimonial loop for you to say, you search this hashtag and then you can see everything that you've ever done on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on whatever. It's really powerful to do something like that. But then what happens is that social media helps you control the internet. So if you've never Googled yourself, Google yourself, go search yourself on Google and see what comes up. Because guess what? That's what your clients are seeing. And if you want to control that, the way you control that is you get on Facebook, you get on Instagram, you get on LinkedIn, you get on Twitter, and you post on there, hold it, 5 times a day on each one of them. And guess what? I know everybody's like, oh my God, Lord, it's free advertising. You're literally going, hey, it's Glenn, I sell real estate, talk to me. It's almost impossible for someone not to contact you at some point if you're constantly posting out there, because name me one person that you know in real estate that's posting that much. I'm not actually, and I should be, but I am posting way more than everybody else here. I have a podcast, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm literally posting every day. I just want to post more.
I didn't know a mortgage guy could post probably 5 times a day.
Tanya Carter, Realty. Still post every day, younger, yeah.
And you should be going, Glenn posts that much, you should be saying Devin posts that much, you should be saying Rob posts that much. No, we're literally trying to grab out of the air how much, like, who do I know, like, I can tell you 5 commercials that I saw last night while I was watching TV that annoyed the shit out of me, but I remember the brand because they put a commercial literally 7 times in an hour period of time, and I was forced to watch it because I was so enthralled with the TV show. Right? So this is the power of social media is really, really amazing. And at the end of the day, my strategy for you is post more about you personally, because that's what's going to attract people to you. The online lead, when we went, what did they say to you when you called them? We did not practice any of this, by the way. This is totally off the cuff. What did they say to you? One of the reasons that they contacted us.
They found it on Instagram.
And but what did they say about us?
Oh, that we looked like we knew what we were doing. We had good reviews. So funny.
Something about me with the wife.
What's
I used to
going
be a
on
police.
with
I
your
used to be, no. She said that. She said that in resident, I used to be a police
Oh,
officer.
that's right. Yeah, you used to be a police officer because her family's from the police force and she's firefighter.
I'm not online going, hey, I was a police officer. Like they went deep. They found us and they were like, well, let's look into this person. They like did their research. And then when we were sitting down with them, they're like, oh yeah, we did that research. Like we were talking to them, telling them about us, and they were like, oh yeah, we know. But that's all from social media. So it's really super valuable, and it's way more valuable than anybody is telling you. And with AI starting to come around, it's going to be even more important. So if you're scared of posting online, you have to get over that.
Okay.
Well, no, I was just trying to help you out there. Like,
No problem. One of the things, if you don't know what to post, follow people and get inspiration from them. That's what I do. It's called duplicate and rip off and duplicate. Sorry, right?
Got it? R&D,
Yes.
R&D, rip off and
R&D.
duplicate.
So people do that all the time. Another thing that we do is we write our scripts ahead of time and we'll one day record all of our videos in one day. I try to do 8 or 9, so I have enough for 2 weeks. We also subscribe to something called Copy and Contracts. I think we pay $50 a month. There's a bunch of social media ideas on there that you can post. Don't just do that because they're not personal, but you also have to mix it with personal stuff. And it's about consistency, doing it consistently. Adriana did a video and did we get a lead?
Yeah, I got a lead from online and then I was gonna say the big view, that was.
Oh, yeah, the Big View app, it's, you can buy the free version. I paid for the one, so it doesn't have the watermark. But when you're doing videos, Frank uses it too. It's like a teleprompter. So you can write your script, you upload it, and then you read it, and it works really well.
It does. It's like, I think if you pay for the full version, it's $99 every 6 months, but it's, so whenever you spend money on real estate, like it's a write-off. And if you don't understand what a write-off is, we're gonna have a CPA in the class, teaching the class, but at the end of the day, it lowers your tax base so you don't have to pay as much taxes. And I'll tell you right now that everybody in this room needs more write-offs. You all need more write-offs. So don't be afraid to spend money because you're either gonna spend money on the tools you need for your business or you're gonna pay it back in taxes to the federal government, who does not need our money. They need to know how to spend our money better. They don't need our money. But I'll just give you an example, is that we don't spend enough money on marketing. 100%. We are really low cost, like, and we've just figured out how to run more efficiently. But like, out of 40 million in sales, this is basically the income in the entire team. This was our marketing budget. It should have, there should be a 1 in front of this, to be honest with you. If there was a 1 in front of this, there'd be a 1 in front of this. Does that make sense? So we're not even doing it at the level we should be doing it. And it hits here, but that's a different conversation. But you guys, don't be afraid to spend money on things. But when you spend money on things, use what you buy. That is probably the biggest problem, is that you guys can go online on social media and find all of these services and $40 yourself out of this business a month. Like there's so many $40 or $100 a month services that you pay for. You don't need a lot of that. But when you find a tool like Big View that you're going to use every day because you're going to record videos every day because you have to post every day, like that is that $200 a year, that is a massively valuable tool that you should spend money on.
I think the thing to think about is when you're spending money on marketing, if it's for, think about your audience. I'm going to use Adriana again for an example. She wanted to pay all sorts of money to do, was this you or Brittany? Maybe it was Brittany. Wanted to do a banner at her son's T-ball field with her name and real estate information. I'm like, don't do that. That's not going to get you any business. That's just going to be standing there. There's going to be a bunch of other people. You need to spend money or do activities that are going towards your warm market, your database, your people. If you're farming, it's your face-to-face and stuff like that. That's where you need to put your energy. That's like, I don't know, like the people that I see that spend the money on the grocery carts. Do you guys go to the grocery store and usually have realtors on that? I know that's a ton of money, and I don't think it's worth it. It might.
Well, I mean, once you get big enough, it becomes part of a marketing program, right?
So we've all been getting calls, like Trudy got a call, I got a call, someone else got a call from someone saying we can put you at every supermarket till in certain supermarket, $350.
Yeah, and now it's like those dividers that divide your food. Now they're on those things too.
Yeah.
It's really hard when you start in real estate because I feel like most real estate agents are like that cat that follow that little laser light. Like they're trying to follow the laser light because they're trying to, figure out that first deal. But, I can sell you on expired listing subscriptions. I can sell you on postcards for farm. I can sell you on all this stuff. But let me tell you what happens is that let's say you I don't want to call my sphere of influence because I haven't done a deal and I'm scared to talk to them because I'm going to look stupid. That's why you guys are not calling your sphere of influence, just FYI. So you say, I don't want to call them because I don't know what I'm doing and I'm going to look stupid. They know me, they've known me forever. And I'm going to door knock instead. I'm going to call expires instead. I'm going to do anything else instead. What's going to happen is that you're gonna do all this, you're gonna grind and call, and you're gonna maybe get a few leads here or there, maybe close one deal here or there. But then your sphere of influence is gonna say, hey, Glenn, how's everything going? What are you doing now? Oh, well, I'm selling real estate. Oh, really? Oh, wow, that's really cool. And then somebody else is gonna say, and somebody's gonna say, oh, so are you still doing that real estate thing? Because I have something to sell. And then your first or second or third deal is gonna come from your sphere of influence. When if you talk to them 6 months earlier, instead of doing all this extra ancillary stuff, your business would have come from there. Does that make sense?
I wanted to say one more thing. She would go into houses and film them, like do activities that make you look like you're busy. Previewing property, video those properties, filming yourself in classes, like things like that, because it's basically giving yourself credibility that you know what you're doing.
There's a guy on TikTok.
I think you had a question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was gonna add on to your 6 month thing. I've heard stories where